There was a time when the development teams, and for that matter the support teams as well, used to sit under the same roof. Their challenges were quite petty. It centered around finding conference rooms and the high speed and getting high speed internet. I remember having lengthy conversations with the team in charge of maintaining internet lines on the bandwidth issues in one of the companies that I worked for. That aside, comparing between now and then, for the work that was outsourced, customers were generally not co-located, and more often than not were not in the same time zone as well, because most of it would have been Bangalore. This arrangement worked as long as the teams that did the work were situated together, and it was all good. Then came the infamous COVID pandemic, and the once co-located teams moved away from a working from home situation. Companies did not have the luxury of running proof of concepts or pilot phases to ascertain that working from home model does work. It was a necessity to keep the lights on, to continue what was started, and it had to be done in a jiffy. It turns out that the work from home model worked just fine. It's been 3 years since, and the industry did just fine. In most cases, employees produced better productivity and increased their ability thanks to the time saved on commute and the absence of water cooler discussions. Well, almost. The work from home situation is not all positive. Every coin has two sides. While the delivery was seamless without disrupting the business, the team was made up of individuals, and each team member delivered what was asked of them. They never came together to form a team and work collectively as one team. The absence of water cooler discussions and other casual face-to-face interactions is one of the primary reasons. This type of working, where every individual works on what is assigned to him or her, will only work for a limited time. Before long, cracks will appear if it hasn't already, which will eventually affect the work delivered. It will affect customer satisfaction and a host of other things that tend to go wrong from there. Not good. People going back to offices for full time is no longer an option as well. Having tasted work from home, going to office 5 days a week is probably unthinkable. Even if companies want to invite employees back to office, they fear mandating it for the fear of attrition. The question is, what should companies do in this context, which presents a double-edged sword? Neither can you stop people from working from homes, or can you sacrifice the delivery quality? Tricky situation indeed. In this video, I will discuss ways of working that fosters collaboration remotely and tries to inculcate the one team spirit. These recommendations are not superficial, but rather will bring in a new culture and will change the fabric of remote working. There is a point where Agile stops being Agile. Agile style of managing work was developed as it provided flexibility to iterate as needed and to pivot where necessary. However, over the years, Agile has become a template, and this templatized version of it is implemented across projects of different shapes, sizes, sectors, and technologies. The underlying principle of suiting the course for the horses in play is forgotten in the translation. For example, when Agile practices are implemented, there are stand-up meetings for 15 minutes in the morning, 2-week sprints, demo on the last day, yada yada yada. While this may have worked in the past, does it guarantee that it would work for a project that is to be remotely executed? by a team that is spread across time zones? I have my doubts. For starters, we may need to shift the daily stand-up to a time when it is feasible for everyone. And when we do this, our frame of reference will not be what will be done today, but rather what will be done in the next 24 hours. If the teams are spread across, say, India, Australia, and the US, you may not find a slot that is convenient to all. What will you do? Skip the Aussies? No. Try to think in an agile manner and try not to fit daily stand-ups because it is agile process, a best practice. How about running a daily stand-up in an asynchronous fashion? Why should everybody get on a call to share their side of the story? Why not introduce an asynchronous medium such as a group chat where team members can key in during their mornings and say what they are doing? This structure may also necessitate a split Scrum Master function as well, with maybe 2 to 3 Scrum Masters putting on the hat during their respective business hours. These are some of the thoughts to be really agile in agile projects. Ditch the best practices. They do more harm than good. Use them as a reference point, a frame of reference, rather than a roadmap. Agility should be in the team's DNA rather than mere processes that you follow. To be at your creative best, you should not follow what was done in the past. By mimicking what was done in the past, you will create more of what is already there. Development is new creation. Developing new features is an art, and to be great at it, you need your creativity to be harnessed fully. For it to happen, experimentation is a must. People must be allowed to experiment, and that's the only way we will know what works and what doesn't. A team that works remotely needs fire and zing to operate in isolated workstations, away from the physical contact. Keeping things normal and doing things the process way will surely bore them to look for the next exciting opportunity. So, giving people room for experimentation, allowing the creative juices to flow will keep the flame burning. On the flip side, experimentation cannot be the only way forward. You try out a new way for a week or two, or even maybe more. If it works, continue more of it. If not, swivel to another direction. The DNA of the team should not be built on opinions and biases, but rather on the intent to experiment and find out what is really best. It will serve the team well in a lot of ways. In discussions with the customer, the team can always assent to customer requests by running a proof of concept. Based on the outcome of the experiments, the team must inspect the results and adapt accordingly. It could either lead to new ways of working or working around the limitations. In an office setting, communicating with team members is so much easier. People sit across and next to each other and they communicate. Communication between team members becomes as smooth as silk and mostly casual. It need not be an event where meetings are set up to communicate. There are breakout areas where people can get together and then they can have a nice cup of coffee and then have conversations. Then cafeteria talk too can further the communication agenda. However, in a remote team, communication with people takes more effort and it takes a formal shape whether you give the color to it or not. A quick ping to a colleague could get you the information, but the response is all logged. So the communication may be filtered and may not be 100% complete. An email gets the same treatment as well. A conference call or a one-on-one call requires dedicated time for the conversation, and a call generally becomes a sign of official communication. Well, It is what it is, and given the circumstances, the team needs to ensure that they communicate all the time. Whether they pick the route of a chat, an email, or call, it doesn't matter. But the communication channel must be open, always. I remember when I was interviewed for the position of a project manager, this was a long time back, I was asked a question of the percentage of average communication efforts in a project. This was prior to Agile and the new ways of working, and also this is a setting where the teams were co-located. I had said 50%, and the interviewer smiled and he told me that it's upwards of 70%. In Agile and in remote teams, for the projects to succeed, the number of conversations and the channels of communication between team members has to go up higher than 70% for success to be a part of the setup. My point is this: while remote working does not offer opportunities for casual conversation, they should not turn into limited communication or no communication. Keep communicating between team members, between your stakeholders, and even if you are over communicating, it's okay. Communication takes certain effort and time, and it could come in the way of the work that you do, like development, configuration, or testing. Don't believe that communication will make you unproductive just because you are spending time communicating rather than doing the work that you do. That's not the case. Communication will help drive your work towards the customer needs, the customer wants, towards the true north. And to state with an example, it could help you avoid rework, which has a direct correlation with productivity. There was a time, this was maybe about 15 to 20 years back, taking teams out to offsites on a team building exercise was a fad. I have been on several such exercises which were necessarily a sport where team members were forced to collaborate to achieve the end goal. The games were planned around building a bond between the team members. Being at an offsite location meant that teams had to be driven there. They had to go along with all the breaks they had, and they were spending a lot of time gelling with each other, talking to each other, communicating, and the bond that grew along with it. These things don't happen today because people are working in the confines of their home. Building bond between the team members is no longer easy. It's no longer straightforward. And one thing is for sure, it is a challenge for every leader out there. There is no straight answer to fix this. Depending on the time dynamics, you could have a pizza party that is sponsored with the sole intention of bringing the team members together to enjoy a pizza on camera. It could only work if people are in a certain time zone. Who would want to eat pizza early in the morning anyway? Not many, but there was a time when I used to eat pizza for breakfast, for lunch, and for dinner. Well, that's beside the point. But what I'm trying to say here is that the team needs to come up with their own set of ways to engage with each other. Every team is unique. Explore how the team can gel remotely. Find activities that interest everybody, even if it is done remotely. Recognizing and rewarding people is a sure way of grabbing attention and increasing engagement. Here's an interesting example. The company Mural, that's a company that's well known in Agile space. It was successful in raising B funding of $118 million. This was way back in August 2020 in the midst of pandemic. They wanted to announce this B funding to all of their 250 employees who were spread across various countries, and they wanted to do it in a celebratory style. A virtual meet was their only option. The job was entrusted to their head of culture and collaboration, which is an interesting role, by the way. Her name's Laila. She was given 2 weeks to plan it. Any other planner would have planned the date and time and an agenda of items to go over, and she, for her credit, she didn't do it the normal way. She went ballistic. The session was named 2020 Mural World Tour, at a time when worldwide travel had come to an abrupt halt. The theme for the session was to take the team on a virtual tour for 3 hours from an airport lounge and an airplane across snowy mountains, tropical islands, and finally into the outer space. Images of various places where they were to visit virtually were downloaded from the internet, and it was shared with all the employees. And the employees had to use these backgrounds during certain parts of the session. The intention was to create a sense of being in the same place by having the same backgrounds at every stage of the virtual meeting, of the virtual tour. To make the experience real, physical props such as disco lights, glow stickers, sunscreen, lip balm, and an a la carte of other items relating to the places were shipped to their employees beforehand. The day before the session, an invite was shared in the design of a boarding pass with an itinerary along with the information containing flight and ground crew. Team members were informed of their part they had to play and were asked to dress up accordingly. The session itself was peppered with entertainment and puzzle solving sections, which helped to break away from serious discussions, the monotony that comes in such discussions. Do you think the team bonded well planning and executing the session? My guess is yes, absolutely yes. Working agreement between team members in an agile setting is not new, but often it gets missed out in the melee of trying to deliver. An agreement is a must between team members, and it can be straightforward and simple as stating the working hours, the communication medium, how often you're going to push the code to the source code repository, how do you deal with code conflicts, among other things. A remote team agreement is important because it drives a sense of shared responsibility, which is the spine that keeps the remote team together. For the team to gel well and work as a team, they need to collectively agree on their working styles and collectively be responsible for their outcomes. When the team members start to own the work, they stop becoming mere individual contributors but rather work to the success of the team. The recommendations that are provided here are not comprehensive, and every team requires a different set of variables and equations to be put in to make them wolves that hunt in a pack. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on running teams remotely. Do share them in the comment section below, and if you liked what you heard, consider subscribing to the channel.